was getting ready to saute some shrimp, and I thought it'd be a great time to talk about one of the things that cooks tend to do that really has a negative effect on the finished dish, and it's overcrowding the pan. Lots of times when you're cooking at home, when you're you put your pan on the stove, you heat it up, and then you put all your meat in there, and then it just simmers and it just juices all start coming out, and you're wondering what happened. Well, what happened is either your burner's too small and the pan's too big, or the pan and the burner are the right size, and you put so much product in there that the heat source is not able to keep up with regenerating the heat, and eventually you get this inverse of all of the liquid just coming out, and then it becomes rubbery and hard, or there's no color. If that happened to you when you're making stew meat for a stew, that's probably what we're talking about. And I thought an easy way to show overcrowding would be on this paper towel here. But assume this is your cooking surface. When you're cooking in a pan, you really want to have a single flat layer in the pan. And right now, when you're putting all that product in your pan, when it's in the pan, you have multiple layers like this, you're overcrowding it, and your pan's gonna have a really hard time recovering so you can get that color. And what's gonna happen is it'll just start to sweat and you'll be sitting in juices. So you wanna really make sure you have that single layer. However, even in this particular example that we're going to show you, you can have a single layer and still have too much product in the pan, and it's because there's no space for the product to move around. If you put the product in the pan and it's so jam-packed in here that there's no space for the product to move, you're overcrowding the pan as well. What you want to look for when you're putting product in a pan, there should be some breathing room. There should be some space around the product, and that's so that there's enough heat and replacement heat from your heat source to keep this right balance of searing or sauteing to the product, and make sure that you can get that color on there, and it seals in the piece of whether it's fish or chicken or beef that you have in the pan. If you're sauteing and cooking in your pan like this, I'm sure you're having great results. If you're not having those results, I want you to think back. I'm willing to bet that more often than not, it's because you're putting too much in the pan. So this is the relative spacing that you would want to look for in your pan, assuming that you have a pan that fits right on the burner, etc. And one thing, remember, like we've talked about in other videos, it's also important to make sure that the moisture is not present. So these shrimp, which are very, very, very wet, I have on that paper towel so that I can really try to get some of that extra moisture off. I'm gonna put some shrimp in the pan here, and we'll get to see what I'm talking about as far as putting the right amount in. So I got butter that's going in here now. Let the butter melt. And then we'll start adding the shrimp in here. But you can hear the shrimp cooking, and that's a good sign because that means it's keeping up with the temperature. If there was no sizzling sound and it's just had a kind of like bubbling, boiling sound, that would be a problem. As you can see, this is a large pan, so there's enough room for the rest of the shrimp that I have here. But you can see, once the pan is loaded, I've loaded the pan, there's space for the product to move around. And I probably could have fit one or two more shrimp in here, but I think this is a nice, comfortable amount. So again, single layer, and the shrimp are cooking nicely, and you're hearing that nice sizzle. Practice this technique at home, and your cooking results will improve dramatically. For more tips and videos like this, visit us at foodland.com.